March 20th. 268. Publius Gallienus, Emperor of Rome, assassinated at Milan. 1413. Henry IV of England died. He usurped the throne 1399, and thereby excited the civil war between the houses of York and Lancaster, called the War of the Roses. 1516. Baptist Spagnoli, a general of the Carmelite, died. He was a native of Mantua in Italy, and distinguished himself by the sound and virtuous regulations which he attempted to introduce among the corrupted members of his order. His works have been published in 4 volumes. 1549. Thomas Seymour, Lord High Admiral of England, attainted and beheaded without being heard. His offense was alleged to be equal, if not superior in power to his brother the Protector. 1586. Richard Maitland, Lord of Session in Scotland, died. He reported the decisions of that court till he became blind at about the age of 60. When he commenced writing and collecting Scottish poetry, he sustained the character of a most unspotted and blameless judge, and valiant, grave and worthy knight. But it is in his character of a writer and collector of Scottish poetry that he is now chiefly remembered. 1643. John Kirkman, a learned German, died at Lubeck. 1677. George Digby, an English nobleman of great ability, died. During the civil wars he espoused the cause of Charles I, but though romantically brave, was always an unsuccessful commander. 1687. Samuel Parker, an English prelate, died. He was educated a Puritan, but for the reward of place, it is believed, became an anti-Puritan and was made Bishop of Oxford. He wrote a history of his own times, which appeared in Latin and English. 1727. Isaac Newton, the celebrated philosopher and mathematician, died, aged 84. He was so small and weak at the time of his birth, that his life was despaired of, and in his youth, his mother, finding him of no service in the management of the farm, sent him to finish his studies. From the success of his pursuits in after life, he has been styled the creator of natural philosophy. The last few years of his existence were spent in utter neglect of those studies which had engrossed 50 years of his life. 1730. Adrienne Lecouvreur, a French actress, died. She is one of the few of her profession whose reputation has survived the age in which they lived. 1737. Nicholas Hooker, gentleman, died at Conway, North Wales. Celebrated as being the 41st child of his father, and being himself the father of 27 children. His tombstone, attesting the above facts, is to be found in the churchyard adjoining Conway Castle. 1741. Peter Berman the Elder died. He was professor of history and eloquence at the University of Leiden, and published editions of many of the Latin classics. 1744. France declared war against England. 1750. The first No. of The Rambler, by Clive Johnson, appeared. 1750. Frederick, Prince of Wales, and father of George III, died suddenly in his 45th year. He died in the arms of his violin player, who was playing for his amusement. 1767. Firmin Abauzit, a learned French writer, died. He became distinguished for his superior progress in every branch of polite learning, but particularly in mathematics and natural history, and was consulted in difficult questions by the most learned men of the age. 1775. Daniel Boone, employed in forming a settlement in the then wilderness of Kentucky, was attacked by the Indians, near where Boonesboro now stands, and 2 of his men killed and 2 wounded. 1780. Action between the French fleet, Admiral Piquet, and 3 British ships, off Monte Cristi. The action continued till the next day, when the French suffered so much that they were compelled to lie by and repair. 1792. The French government adopted the instrument since known as the guillotine. It had been in use in various countries several centuries before. 1793. William Murray, Lord Mansfield, died. He was eminent as a lawyer, and dignified as a judge, as an elegant scholar, of highly cultivated and vigorous intellect. He shone in the constellation of great men which arose in the reign of Queen Anne. In eloquence and beauty of diction he outrivaled his predecessors, and has not been excelled by any successor in the high office he held. 1797. Battle of Larvis, between the Austrians and the French under Joubert, in which the former were defeated, after an obstinate battle. 4,000 taken. 1799. Bonaparte opened the siege of Saint-Jean-d'Acre, in Palestine. 1799. Battle of Pfullendorf, in Germany, in which the French under Jourdan sustained the attack of the Austrians under the Archduke, who had the advantage in point of numbers and artillery, having no less than 300 pieces. 1800. Battle of Heliopolis, Egypt, in which the French under Kleber defeated the Turks under the Grand Vizier. 1801. The British, under Admiral Duckworth, took the island of St. Bartholomew's, in the West Indies. It was again restored on the dissolution of the Armed Neutrality. 1809. The populace rose and plundered the French in the Havana. 1811. Massena gave up the command of his army to Marmont, and retired into France. 1811. Birthday of Napoleon, Duc de Reichstadt, son of the Emperor of France. He was christened Emperor of Rome. 1812. John Horntook, an English politician, died. He was educated for the ministry, with a great predilection for politics. In 1771 he induced the printers of 2 newspapers to publish the debates of the House of Commons in violation of their rules, which led to proceedings that finally resulted in the defeat of the House, and the practice of those publications ever since. He was a warm opponent of the American War, and was prosecuted for sedition, for the wording of a resolution by which the Constitutional Society voted £100 to the relief of the widows and children of the Americans who fell at the Battle of Lexington, and was sentenced to a year's imprisonment and a fine of £200. In 1786, appeared his Diversions of Purley, which raised him to a high rank as a philologist. His political life ended with the dissolution of Parliament, in 1802, and the remainder of his days were spent in the society of his friends. 1814. Battle of Arcus, in which the Prince of Württemberg defeated the French and captured that place. 1815. Bonaparte ascended the throne of France on his return from Elba. 1831. The Austrian troops entered Bologna, and in a few days overrun the revolted part of Italy. 1831. Insurrection of the slaves at Antigua. Suppressed on the 25th. 1843. Charles G. Corliss was shot dead in a street near Broadway, New York, by a woman who escaped. 1844. Peter B. Porter died, aged 71. His name is connected with most of the important events in the history of Western New York. and as an officer in the army. During the last war with Great Britain he rendered important services to his country. He was sometime Secretary of War of the United States. 1849. Newton M. Curtis, author of a number of novels, died, aged 34. He sometime printed a political paper at Ballston, before his talent as a writer of fiction was developed. His subjects were mostly of Indian and revolutionary scenes and incidents. 1853. The French fleet sailed for the Turkish waters, to act against the Russians, if necessary. 1854. Two shocks of an earthquake at Macon, Georgia. 1856. David Connor, a United States Commodore, died. He entered the service in 1809, and was wounded in the action between the Hornet and Penguin. 1856. A party of 500 Costa Ricans attacked Carl Schlesinger, who commanded 400 of Walker's men, at the Hacienda Santa Rosa, and entirely defeated them. Morrill had 16 killed and 25 wounded. Of Jim Walker's men 90 were killed and several perished in the woods. The action lasted but 14 minutes. The Costa Ricans shot 19 prisoners.